Okay, so today we're going to go over chapter 4. We're beginning chapter 4. Today we're going to do lesson 1 and lesson 2 in chapter 4. The first one is powers and exponents. Remember at the beginning of the year, you guys, didn't I give you some IXLs on powers and exponents? And you had to do those. So this should just be right now, at this point, kind of a review. Some terms that you need to know. There is a real world link to this. Okay, it does happen, we use it. It says data storage capacity is measured in bytes and is based in powers of 2. The standard scientific meaning for the prefix mega and giga are 1 million and 1 billion, respectively. What does respectively mean? That came up yesterday in the test that kind of confused some people. What does it mean respectively? So, actually, it just means in that order. So respectively means, so it says, is measured in bytes and is based on powers of 2. The standard scientific meaning for the prefix mega and giga are 1 million. So 1 million is for mega and 1 billion is for giga. Respectively means is the answer stayed in the same order. So mega was listed first, and 1 million was listed first, that's respectively. Giga was listed second, 1 billion was listed second, so they stay together. Does that make sense when it says respectively? So yesterday when you had that chart, it said put the fractions in order respectively to the chart above. It just meant in the exact same order. Okay, and you'll see that word term come up a lot on any kind of exam and stuff. So it says in computer science, a megabyte equals 2 to the 20th power bytes, and a gigabyte equals 2 to the 30th bytes. Okay? So if you get into technology and stuff like that, you guys will be working also with exponents, not just if you would be into something in math. Here's where the terms that you guys need to make sure you get memorized and know. It says an expression like 5 times 5 times 5 with equal factors can be written using an exponent. The exponent tells how many times, okay, the number is used as a factor. The number that is expressed using an exponent is called the A power. So when I read that last number, I said it was 2 to the 20th power, because sometimes you read it the 20th power, okay? You need to know the base. Your base number would be the 5. Okay, so the base is 5 because I'm doing 5 times 5 times 5. Your exponent would be the 3. Know those terms, they will come up a lot. So you see here, 5 to the first power. Anything to the first power is always going to be the base, whatever the base is. What, and they don't have it on this chart, but what if I have 5 to the 0 power? Anything to the 0 power is always what?
0.
Is it 0?
Wait, no, 1.
It's 1. Everything to the power of 0 is always going to be 1. So even if I have 250 to the 0 power, my answer is going to be 1. Okay? Read it as, I want you, in this class, we need to know that that's not always going to be read 5 to the second power. You need to say 5 squared. 5 cubed. You know that you need to know those terms. Anything after that, you would just say 5 to the 4th, 5 to the 5th, 5 to the 6th, 5 to the 7th. And that's why they say 5 to the nth power, whatever number that might be. But you need to know that it's squared and cubed. Okay? So for our examples, it says write expression using exponents. Now, we are putting in negative numbers. This is a little bit different than what you just had on your IXLs, okay? Because we're going to have some letters in here. We're going to have some negative numbers. If I have negative 8 times negative 8 times negative 8, the base is a negative 8, okay? And I'm doing that negative 8 times 3 times, right? So it'd be a negative 8 to the 3rd power. Here we have some numbers and letters together. We've already done some of this with our bell work, haven't we? So it'd be 5 times R. How many R's are there? Huh? 2. So it'd be 5 times R squared times S, how many S's? So S to the 4th. Do I want these dots in between it though? Yes or no? No. Get used to getting rid of those and just make it 5 times R squared times S to the 4th. Okay, are you guys with me? So if I have 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2, oh wait, sorry, one more example. We have the quantity of K plus 2. It's the same every single time, right? It's always K plus 2 times K plus 2 times K plus 2 times K times 2. So you make that in the quantity to the 4th power. Alright? So if I have 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2, you would write it as 1/2, what? Cubed. How would I solve this? Well, I just do 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2. They're not asking me to solve it right now, but I'm going to. So it would be 1 times 1 times 1, which is 1. 2 times 2 times 2, which is, that's 6. 2 times 2 is 4. Then 4 times 2 is 8. Be careful with that. We're not adding, we're multiplying. Okay, because you are going to be asked to solve this. This would be x to the 5th power. So you'd write x to the 5th. Quantity C minus D times C minus D. So you have to make it in the quantity C minus D in parentheses squared. You're all right. It happens. Hey, I've had those days, right? I want everybody to do 1D on your boards. Anthony. Have to make sure you hit. You're on for sure. Now just give it to me at the end. So you should have it done already. So I should have 9. Is there any other 9s? No. So it's 9 times F to the 1, 2, 3, 4th power times G. Do I have to have any powers with the F or the G? No. All right, erase your boards. How many of you are confused? How many of you think, okay, I've got this so far and I'm good to go? Okay, because we're going to get it in a little bit more here. Okay, looking at the next page, it says, since powers evaluate the expression, since powers represent repeated multiplication, they need to be included in the rules for order of operations. You guys say PEMDAS, right? Yeah. I say, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, it doesn't matter, right? What does the P stand for? Parentheses. What does the E stand for? Exponents, and that's where we're at. Okay, so you would do anything in parentheses first, then the exponents. It says, simplify the expressions. Expressions are what's in parentheses. Inside grouping symbols. So the parentheses, or you could also have brackets, correct? Parentheses and brackets are also part of those. Then you evaluate all powers. Then you multiply or divide left to right. And last step is add and subtract left to right. And as I talked about earlier, if you're at home, hit that tutor button if I did not create a video. So we have example 2. The playing area for beach volleyball includes the playing court and the free zone. Evaluate expression to find the area of the playing court and the free zone. Evaluate means to solve it. Okay? And when you go to solve it, I am not going to let you just put 2 to the 7th power equals. You have to show me 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Now, what I'm going to show you, what I'd like to see done, is, okay, here's our answer. We're going to get rid of that. I want to see that, do you know 2 cubed? We just did it. What's 2 cubed?
8.
So I'm going to show lines for all 3 of those and put that as an 8. 1, 2, 3, that's is an 8. Are you guys with me on this so far? Then I'm going to do 8 times 8 and then bring down that 2. And then what's 8 times 8?
64.
And then I'm going to do 64 times 2. Showing my lines of what I've used. A common error is when people don't bring down your lines and they get lost on how many they've done. Let's say I didn't know 2 times 2 times 2. Okay? I could just do this also. You could also just show me 2 times 2 is 4. These 2 are 4. This is 4, and then that's bringing down my 2. It does not matter, but you have to show your work. Do you guys understand that? Okay. So then when I go, it says the area of the playing court is 128 square meters, which we already found. The area of the free zone is 2 squared times 3 squared times 5. You are going to write it underneath. I don't want it written off to the side. I want, what's 2 squared?
2 times
2 times 2, which is what?
2.
Can you do that part in your head and just bring it down underneath of it? Yes. But you're showing me that 2 squared is 4. Times what's 3 squared?
9.
Times 9, then times 5. Now, when I go to multiply, I can multiply in any order, correct? Because that's commutative property of multiplication. Do I want to do 9 times 5 first? Not really. What do I want to multiply first? 4 and 5, because it'll end in a 0, right? And if something ends in a 0, I can hang it out. So then I have 9 times 20. If I hung out that 0, I can bring it down. And then 2 times 9 is 18. Do you guys understand that? But I am showing work all the way. Did I have to rewrite it like this? No, not if you know what 2 squared is. Just put it down underneath of it. Not if you know what 3 squared is. If you don't know it, then please write it out. So it says number 2, a tennis ball is dropped from the top of a building. After 8 seconds, the tennis ball hits the ground. The distance in meters the ball traveled is represented by 4 and 9/10 times 8 squared. How far did the ball drop? Start doing that on your whiteboard, please. You need to show me the original problem before you start doing any work. And it's there, it's in the story problem. Alright, so you needed to show me on your paper 4 9/10 times 8 squared. Show that to me first. Do I do 4 and 9/10 times 8? No. What do I do first? 8 squared. And I know that in my head, so I can just bring down the 4 and 9/10 times what's 8 squared.
264.
Write that down. Then, it doesn't matter which order I put it in. I'm going to put 64 on top of 49. Because I just said 49, because when you're multiplying with the decimals, you don't worry about the decimal first. Okay? You finish figuring it all out. and then I count my decimals, which is 1, and I bring my decimal in. So it should be 313 and 6/10. How many of you got 313 and 6/10? Because some of you weren't quite done. Now, I wrote around this, watch it. This is very important. Again, it was not part of the IXL practice that you guys practiced beforehand. The -3 squared is not the same as -3 squared because there are no parentheses here, okay? The -3 squared is like a -3 times a -3. Do you guys understand that? Because you take what's in parentheses, times it by itself. And then a negative times a negative is going to be a positive. If the negative is outside the 3, it's just like you take a -1 times 3 squared, which to me that gets a little bit confusing. So your answer is going to be -9. What I say is that negative, you don't worry about it first. You just do 3 squared, which is 9, and then I bring that negative right back down in front of it. I'm going to give you another example. And let's say I have a -3 cubed. Okay? Now, do you guys have your pencils? Can you write neatly in your book? Because I'll have you put this right down here with it. If I have a -3 cubed, that would be like saying 3 times 3 times 3, which is 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. Then you bring down the negative sign.
So you write that in.
With pencil. Let's say it was a -3 cubed like this. Then it's like saying -3 times -3 times -3. -3 times -3 is a +9. +9 times a -3 is a -27. So in this example, if it's squared, your number might be positive or negative depending if you have parentheses or not. If it's cubed, it doesn't matter, we're still going to be negative. But what you have to watch out for are those parentheses. If the parentheses are there, you're going to multiply it with the negative each time. If the parentheses are not there, you're going to just do the base times the exponent and then bring your negative down later. Any questions on that? Okay, in our next example, we are just introducing some variables with this. We have x squared plus y cubed. If x equals 6 and y equals a -2. Here's where this watch out stuff comes in handy, okay? X squared, x is 6, so I put 6 in for my x and show that squared. Plus, my y is a -2, so that has to be a -2 cubed. So then that's like saying a -2, I'll just put that underneath here. A -2 times a -2 times a -2. A -2 times a -2 is a +4. A +4 times a -2 is a -8. So now I really have 6 squared, I gotta do 6 squared yet, which is 36. So now I really have 36 minus 8. You guys see how I got to that? Do you see how I'm doing line for line for line? I'm showing that the -2 cubed is right here. I'm showing that 6 squared is right here, and that went all the way down to here. And then I'm evaluating that at the end. Are you guys clear on how to do this? So on your whiteboard, I want you to do 3A. Alright, before I go over that problem, I just remember there's one other thing I wanted to make sure I go over, and it's the word, it's a vocabulary word that you're gonna see come up. It says an exponent goes with the number, variable, or quantity in parentheses immediately preceding it. What does the word or what does a prefix pre mean?
Before.
So if it's preceding it, it is,
Before seeing.
it's before it. Okay, so it means it's in the parentheses, this is preceding whatever exponent you have. Do you guys understand that? So preceding means it's what it's before it. Alright, let's go back, let's look at that problem you guys were supposed to do. Some of you were not showing all of the work that you need to show. First, you start by writing 10 plus b squared. Okay? So you write 10 plus b squared. Then you needed to write 10 plus, what is b? B is a negative 2. So I had to make it, in parentheses, a negative 2 squared. This is when we're coming up to these problems here. Watch it. Watch out. So 10 just stays 10. Now, a negative 2 squared is like saying a negative 2 times a negative 2. You had to show me that. Because you've got negative numbers. Do not just write down the answer. So a negative 2 times a negative 2 is a... It's not going to be negative, it's going to be positive. So then I bring down the 10 plus 4 to get 14. You had to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. It does not take that much extra time to write it because that way you are not going to make a mistake. Try 3B. I need to see line for line for line. Some of you are trying to take shortcuts and you cannot take a shortcut. So I start with writing my original problem. Then I write in parentheses, A is 5 plus B is a negative 2. And then because I put a negative 2 in parentheses, I really should now make this a bracket. But if you didn't, that's okay. Cute. So now I do what's in parentheses first. What's 5 plus a negative 2? Positive 3. So then I have 3 cubed. And then I show 3 times 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. You see how I'm showing my work? Line for line for line. After a while, if you get memorized what's 3 cubed, you don't have to make this line. You don't have to show this line. You just tell me what the answer is. Okay? Let's do 3C. Because 5 plus a negative 2, does that make sense? Because you have to do what's in parentheses first. Okay. Good question. Alright, let's rewrite the problem. We have 2 minus c squared. Just bring down the 2 and the minus. C is a 3/4, so I put that in parentheses. 3/4 squared. Do I worry about the minus sign or the subtraction yet?
No.
No. I'm just going to do 3/4 squared right now. So 3/4 times 3/4. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 4 is, so I have 9/16. Is with me on that so far. Then I bring back 2 minus 9/16. I'm subtracting fractions. Do I keep it going across? No, from just the last chapter I told you I always need it up and down, so I take 2 minus 9/16. Can I take 9/16 away from nothing? No, so the 2 becomes a 1, and I add 16/16. So now it's 16 minus 9. What's 16 minus 9?
7.
And 1 minus nothing is 1. So your answer would have been 1 and 7/16. How many of you got 1 and 7/16? How many of you found your error when going over it? How many of you are still confused? Okay, let's look at the next page. How many of you are finding this a little bit more tricky than what you had on your IXL? Yeah, it's because we're throwing in negatives, we're throwing in some negatives and some fractions. Looking at the guided practice, I want you guys to take a look at the guided practice. And I want you to go all the way down in the guided practice. We are going to skip the top few. I want you to look at numbers 9 through 12. I want everybody to do number 9 right now. 9. So you first had to start by writing on your paper a cubed plus 2. A is 3, so then I'm going to rewrite 3 cubed plus 2. Then the 3 cubed is 3 times 3 times 3. Do that, and then I'm going to add my 2. So 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. Then I have to bring down my plus 2, and I get 29. How many of you know that 9 cubed is going to be 27? So if you do know that, you can skip all those lines and just put 27 underneath of that. Okay? Because there's not a negative number with it. Go to number 10, please. Or number 10. Alright, so I have 3 times the quantity, b minus 1 squared. what, do I do 3 times this first? No, I need to do my parentheses first. So I'm going to, I have 3 times b is a negative 4 minus 1 squared. So then it's 3 times a negative 4 and a negative 1 makes it a negative 5 squared. Now, that negative 5 is in the parentheses. So I do negative 5 times negative 5. What's a negative 5 times a negative 5? Positive 25. And then I take 3 times the 25 and I get 75. It has to be a positive 75. Be careful with your positives and negatives. Let's go ahead and do the last 2 examples. Let's do 11.